Welcome to the Crystal Coach Show with me, your host, Anahata, helping you live every day with clarity, guidance, and practical wisdom. Are you feeling overwhelmed, anxious, maybe disconnected? Do you ever feel like you don't know how to live a life of peace and joy? I am Anahata Roach, the Crystal Coach, and during this show, we channel divine wisdom through stories of service, spirituality, and stones for self-care. The Crystal Coach Show leaves you with a feeling of connection and the clarity it takes towards becoming the best version of yourself as you hear from thought leaders and many others to help you ignite the crystalline nature of who you really are. Stay tuned. The Crystal Coach Show starts now. Hello and welcome again to another episode of the Crystal Coach Show. I'm your host, Anahata Roach, and I am so delighted to have as a special guest today, Dr. Michelle Patrick. We're going to talk about the art of self and practice of self-mastery. Now, Dr. Michelle Patrick is at the forefront of self-mastery revolution, combining her profound experience as a clinical doctor of Chinese and Naturopathic Medicine with a robust foundation in biomedical science. Her approach transcends conventional medical practices by advocating for a holistic view of health where the physical, emotional, and spiritual dimensions are harmoniously aligned for optimal self-healing. Beyond her clinical experience, I lost my place. Beyond her clinical experience, Dr. Patrick is an esteemed clinical researcher and lecturer, contributing her insights to some of the world's most prestigious academic institutions. As the head of education for LUMIVITAE, she is pioneering educational strategies that foster empowerment, self-awareness, and profound healing. Dr. Pat's methodology is revolutionary. It redefines the patient's role in the healing process, encouraging an empowered stance toward radical self-realization and mastery. Through her clinical practice and educational endeavors, she administers treatments and constructs a framework that enables individuals to actively participate in their journey towards health and well-being. This empowerment extends to her teachings, where she promotes self-observation and self-actualization, viewing the human form through a poetic and philosophical lens. Dr. Patrick reignites a sense of wonder in the human body's capabilities, advocating for a model of health that inspires self-love and a deep, intuitive connection with one's inner physician. Her vision is a clarion call to transform traditional educational paradigms, which often alienate the individual from their innate healing potential. Through her innovative approach to self-mastery, Dr. Michelle Patrick is not just altering the lives of her patients, she is inspiring a global shift towards a more empowered, conscious, and health-centric society. Please welcome Dr. Michelle Patrick. I'm so excited you're here, Dr. Michelle. Yay!
Thank you for having me. We made it.
Yes, we did make it. We absolutely did. I just want to also share with the listeners that you and I have known each other for a while now.
Yes, quite some time, many years.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I have actually done some of your training, and I call myself an acolyte at the Church of Self-Mastery, because
Yeah.
you preach, and I hear it, and it's wonderful. And I've been so anxious to have you on, and I'm just really, really so grateful you're here today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, okay, so the practice of self-mastery. I want to start from the beginning for you, which was that you grew up in a household where, the practice of self-care and medicine and naturopathic kind of solutions were a daily kind of thing, right? Your mother was a physician, correct?
Yes, truly, and on an
Yes.
oncologist. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so she was the one that inspired you to kind of take this up as your um, profession and um, go beyond where she went. But could you tell us why?
Mm. Yeah, it was interesting. In fact, it wasn't even my mother that really inspired it. It was an very innate knowing. So from a very young age, I was grew up in a military household, and but we never really lived on base. We lived American Air Force. My father was in the American Air Force. We lived in villages and stuff like that, and so I was very blessed to grow up around nature a lot of the time. And from a very young age, I was very curious about our interconnected relationship with nature. And I used to kind of go out into the cow fields and think, this is for so much more than just gazing upon. And I used to pick plants from about the age of 5 or 6. And I used to go out in the cow fields and pick these plants. And I used to come home with these plants. And then my mother bought me a plant press, so I used to press these plants, and this was obviously not in the time where information was readily available at the click of an internet. So we
Right.
used to go to like charity store, bookstores and stuff like that and look up like herb books and stuff and I used to label these plants, and it was just an innate kind of obsession. But my mother, yes, she was a physician, but funny enough, she was a very stressed physician. And but what she did encourage is natural alternatives to things. Like I was very athletic, and when I'd be injured or something, then she would take me to a more natural selection, like Chinese medicine, acupuncture,
Mhm,
tuina, those kind of things. So
mhm,
she did inspire more naturopathic opportunity as care options, but she was very, very traditional. And then yeah, I developed a kind of small obsession with nutrition when I was about 11. And this stemmed from being in military school, American school. And on reflection, it was rather odd. Like they used to come and do health checks on us, health checks. And and one health check unveiled that I had high cholesterol. Obviously, in my mind now, that means something totally different. But to an 11-year-old, I was absolutely horrified. And I came home like demanding to know why I had high cholesterol and rummaging through the shelves and the cupboards, like actually learning to read things because in my mind, I was eating good food.
mm.
My mother always fed us well, but it was a very American household and the American food was rife. And, Fruit Loops, I used to think as a child actually were fruit. So I was, began this exploration of what I was eating, and it just became very it was obsession, actually, obsessed with the human body and what was going in it and our relationship to nature. And my father was not very healthy at all, actually. He was a very stressed out military man, but he used to have a quite profound collection of books. And I used to read his books, and actually there is a book, Dr. Stephen Chang's Internal Healing, and that he had on his bookshelf. And I read that at the age of 11. And really, that really catapulted me into my choice of purpose. But it was kind
Mm.
of, I felt like it was always there, but as I moved into kind of adolescence and, when it becomes time to enter formal, antiquated systemic education, I did what I loved, when I started with nutrition. So it's always been there. It's always been there. That makes sense.
Yeah, but I'm thinking in particular of a story that you told about your mother having cancer and then
Oh gosh. Oh
you,
yes, my mother. That was ironic as well, wasn't it? As an
yeah,
oncologist.
yeah, yeah, I know, right? But
Yeah,
but then she healed herself, right?
yeah, she did. So she had a T cell lymphoma. It was a grade 3, and it wasn't looking good, And as a somebody who worked in oncology herself, she knew that probably at her age, systemic treatment was not going to be something that she wanted to take as an option for herself and the way that she chose to live her life.
Mm.
So, as a result of said diagnosis, she just completely turned her life around. She reduced her stress. She went on a naturopathic protocol. She changed everything, and she actually put her cancer into remission in 12 weeks.
See, that's what I think is just so friggin' amazing. And of
It,
course, it just kind of affirmed for you
mm,
all of the things that you were doing naturally. You
yes,
know, it's like
yes.
your purpose in this lifetime, in this embodiment, was to bring forth this knowledge because
Mm,
it's evident from what you're saying you have done from an early age, right?
yes, yes, yes.
So I want to know, you call this recognition of the body's mm, miracle of synergistic interdependence, if you will, this inner standing,
Mm.
right? So can you tell us how you came to express the concept of in this way?
Inner standing of inner
Yeah.
standing.
Understanding of understanding. Yeah.
Yes, it's interesting because, as you know, I believe words are a casualty most of the time. And the word understanding, I don't want to be under something. I
Yeah.
want to be in it. And the way the body works, I feel like we are so somatically disconnected from it as our vessel for life because, of our social interactions with the opportunity to so freely hand away responsibility for it.
Right.
Um, and to understand the body, it doesn't really speak to inspiration for me. So when I kind of use the term inner standing, it's really about connecting with the internal terrains of what we have been given to do life with, which is the body. The body is our tool of mastery to live out in these realms as all of the
Right.
multiple dimensions and timelines that we can have, the peripheral vision to touch. Yet it is the body that we were given to explore them all. So much like you would learn how to change a tire or at least put water in your car, to really internally understand this ecology that we have been given and blessed with to create with, to be co-creators of universal reality, of our conscious connections and the web that has no weaver,
Yes.
then I do believe the body to be the most important source of knowledge and education that we can hope to have in this life.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that because after listening to you, various trainings and all this, and I understand your understanding, but I
Yes.
wanted the listeners to also get kind of a window in of where you are. For
Mm.
me, it's like understand is an external thing,
Right, totally.
and understand is when you're going within to
Yes.
kind of suss out what's going on,
Yeah.
and knowing that if you feel a pressure or pain in your abdomen over here, might possibly be your liver, those kinds of things that you get that awareness, that inner standing of where all the organs are and how they interact, right?
Yes. Totally.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
how ludicrous that we can cram such historic knowledge, but yet we don't know where our organs are.
Exactly.
It's
Well,
really, really
I
fascinating.
know. Well, I mean, I want to take a quick break because, believe it or not, we're already at the 15-minute window. So I want, would you please tell your listeners how to find you?
Yes, so you can find me at www.themichellepatrick.com, and you can also catch me on Instagram, which is actually the best place to find me, which is at the Earth Oracle.
The Earth Oracle.
Yes.
And the website is the
Yeah.
Michelle Patrick, just like mine is the Crystal Coach. Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, we'll be right back. And when we come back, Michelle, I'm going to ask you to give us an overview of the 5 element theory, and especially around how the organs are affected by the elements. Okay, so we'll be right back, everyone. Come on back. Hi, and welcome back to the Crystal Coach Show. I'm your host, Anahata, and we're talking today with Dr. Michelle Patrick. who is an expert on self-mastery and a all-around guru when it comes to organs and theory and the traditional Chinese medicine. So, and she's my guru anyway. So, so Michelle, what can you just give us an overview maybe of, I know this is a deep rabbit hole, but if we can kind of get like a landscape picture, 10,000 feet above of what is the organ, what is the 5-element theory, first of all, and then how do the organs kind of relate to that?
Hmm. 5-element theory is a theorem of wholeness. It's thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. It was kind of created around the time that the yin and yang, the Tai Chi, was really explored. The idea of balance in all things, but this mutual connectedness, interdependent nature of creation, and everything is whole and complete in every moment. And it really highlights the link between not just nature, but nature and the human being, and the human being as nature as well. So in 5-element theory, we have 5 elements. You know, the elements are the building blocks of creation, and we are the building blocks of creation, the micro to the macro, and the micro to the macro, and the micro to the macro, and multiple different ways of looking at things. And the elements that are within the 5-element theory are fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. Within those elements, it is said that the human being contains all of these elements, and these elements are reflected through different seasons, you know, the external seasons of summer, late summer, autumn, winter, spring. And these are also reflected through the elements. Also inside of these elements, there are different organs, right? So there are different organs that are inside these elements. So within the fire element, there is the triple burner, the heart, the pericardium, and the small intestine. And within these organs as well, there's the yin and yang organ, right? So because again, it reflects the interconnected, interdependent nature of wholeness within every ecology in the human soma. So the heart is the yin organ, and the small intestine is the yang organ within the fire element. Within the earth element, we have the spleen, which is the yin organ and the yang organ of the stomach. Within the metal element, we have the lungs, which is the yin organ, and then we have the large intestine, which is the yang organ. Within water, we have bladder, which is the yang organ, the kidneys, which are the yin organ, and within wood, we have the liver and the gallbladder, the liver being the yin organ and the gallbladder being the yang organ. Now, as the human being is whole, and although we have a habit of separating because we cause separation in all things, we separate the idea of mind, body, and consciousness, or spirit, or soul, or whatever it is that you choose to connect to. And here is yin and yang again here. Yin is the matter of the body, matter itself. Yang is the immaterial aspect of the human experience. It could be spirit, it could be shen, as we call it in Chinese medicine. The mind, the immaterial, the things that can't be touched and tasted, you know, they have no form, are represented by yang. So again, within this concept of wholeness, within the elements, there is also the unseen aspects, the yang aspects of the human being, the matter being represented through the organs themselves, and the immaterial aspect being the immaterial aspects of the mind, the emotions, our psycho-spiritual attributes and virtues. That are also reflected through the elements. And there is a wide variety of emotions that could be expressed through the elements. Just the very basic, like high level things, just to throw in the elements for the sake of this podcast: joy or lack of being in the fire element with those particular organs, worry and sympathy being in the earth element, grief being in the metal element, fear, the water element, and repression, anger, frustration in the wood element. And that's just very high level because there are a plethora of human emotions. As we know, we are a kaleidoscope of an emotional rainbow, many of the colors we don't even know. But so that, and all of these emotions can be placed due to their flavor within the certain elements, you know. And also these elements have empowerments, much like everything in life does. And this is the more psycho-spiritual attributes, the parts of the mind that live within these different organ systems, because everything is a reflection in life. And matter must reflect the immaterial, and the immaterial must reflect matter. You know, it's like source, the very spark of life itself, the essence of what makes creation, creations that no one really understands, this electrical charge, we can call it. This electrical charge that is what sustains life is the immaterial aspect, and matter is the aspect. And these two things need each other. You know, consciousness requires matter to manifest,
Mm,
and matter
yes.
requires consciousness to exist. So it's the five element theory for me is not just a complete tool of understanding creation itself, but understanding um, the human being's part in creation and how we can express it in wellness and health. And it's also a fantastic diagnostic tool because we can start to connect our ways of being, our immaterial aspects of ways of being, our chronic emotional pathologies, which most human beings suffer with, you know, our way of expressing in the world that often is very stagnant and is stuck in a very small variety of how we behave with our behavioral patterns. Those things can also be connected to different organ systems
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
pathologies that we experience within these organ systems. So it becomes not just a tool of diagnostics but empowerment, because if we can see that we are suffering with certain emotional pathologies and we also have physiological pathologies in matter within those two organ systems, then we can see essentially where the root cause of our issues are.
Hmm. Yes.
That's a high level. So
Yes, it's very high level, and it's a good summation, really
yeah.
good summation of that. Hopefully the listeners that are interested in this can it's enough to get you motivated to check out Dr. Michelle Patrick and all of the wonderful programs that she provides humanity. Um,
Wonderful.
yeah. You know, there is I've always been curious about this. I've got kind of like my own thought about what the answer is, but I want to ask you, what do you feel of all the organs in the body? Because all these organs are, you've explained the five element theory, but if when you drill a little deeper, you see how they're all interrelated and things that, like for example, the skin and the hair and all that's the kidneys,
Yes.
so it's like, what do you mean that's my kidneys? Yeah, that's your kidneys. So what do you think is for just the layperson to become more aware of, which organ do you think is something that needs to have more attention paid to it?
Mm. I mean, all of the organs
Well,
are
all of them, yeah, but
valid, but um, I would say the kidneys. I would also say the spleen. A lot of people, you know, when they have splenic pathologies, have their spleen whipped out,
mm,
uh, and uh, you know that's not a bad thing. And Western medicine is amazing for trauma and emergencies. So these things are very needed, and other organs take over, but I would say the spleen or the kidneys, actually. You know, the kidneys are our root of, they say, post pre-heavenly chi. They contain our divine mandate. They are the mother of yin and yang in the body, and they control all of the aspects of yin and yang in all of the organ systems in the body. They are also responsible for how we mature, right?
mm,
So the
mhm,
fact that we experience maturation in the human body, you know, with our hair changes color, our skin changes, and all of that. This is responsibility of the kidneys. So essentially, how we experience longevity is essentially housed by the kidneys.
mm. Right. Yes. And when the
Post-
kidneys are under stress and overworked, or the adrenals are exhausted, that kind of work with the kidneys, that's when you do kind of like the chi kind of starts to leak out, right? So,
Exactly. And as you were saying before, when it comes to organ theory, I mean, we could talk about organ theory all day because that's just a deeper aspect of five element theory. But within organ theory, you know, we think that we can't see the organs, but we actually can, because every single organ has a fluid that it's attached to. It has your sense organ. It's so when we understand the body like this, or understand the body like this, then we know where the skin is housed,
Mm.
um, what organ is responsible for the eyes, even though they seem like their own organ, it's really, under control of the liver and stuff like this. So, um, yeah, it's just really profound. So, yeah, when you
Yes.
understand or understand organ theory to that level, then you see the importance of the kidneys, even in our emotional pathology, because the kidneys are also responsible for marrow for the spinal cord, which feeds the brain, which in this particular theory, and the brain's kind of important. So the kidneys,
It's kind of
a little bit,
a
yeah, a
little
little
bit,
bit,
a little bit,
yeah,
but that's kind of a given. But when it comes to overall health, I mean, it's really sad to see so much renal failure and disease in the world. Um,
absolutely,
when you could get an awareness of that as like something you really need to nurture and nourish,
yeah.
and to avoid having, yeah.
I
So
think that it's the human nature to, because we're so disconnected, we don't see the body to the level of sacredness that it actually is until there's a,
yeah,
and then we're like, oh, we really feel our mortality through dis-ease.
right.
However, to really look at the body like a miracle in the first place changes our relationship with it.
It truly does.
Yeah,
It truly does. And you're absolutely right. We kind of take our bodies for granted,
we do.
and it, we shouldn't. That's not, I'm not going to say should on yourself, but that's just not, it's a contraindicative kind of viewpoint
Yes,
to take your body for granted and your health for granted.
yes,
We only worry about that when the health is impaired in some way.
exactly.
Yeah,
Totally. And that's unfortunate. Yeah.
it is truly unfortunate. So, you have a couple of different programs that are out there in your website that teaches people
Mhm.
about what we've just been talking about.
Yeah.
And that's a form of self-mastery, right?
Yes.
That when you have the information, then you have more of an autonomous kind of role in your own health.
Of course.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So can you talk about what, like, for example, in a inner realm, that
Mhm.
I took the inner realm course. So there's one, and then there's one that's coming, a
Yes.
follow-up to that, right? Can you talk about what these offerings are, and what people might gain or benefit from?
Yeah. So Inner Realm was my baby. It was, I don't know how many months it was in the end, because I have a habit of saying 4 months, but then I like to overteach. So I think it ended up being 6 months. I just keep giving and giving and giving.
It was
Um,
great.
so Inner Realm is a deep exploration into organ theory. So really exploring the organs, learning the Western physiology of the organ, but also the Eastern physiology of the organ, the emotional pathologies, the emotional inhabitants of the organs, pathologies of the organs, naturopathy to kind of support the organs. It's really an opportunity to take sovereignty and responsibility, radical self responsibility for
Yes.
one matter, because once we are the master of our own matter, then we are the mastery of our existence. We become a tool of mastery.
Mm.
So, Inner Realm 2 is going to be obviously the foundational attributes of organ theory, but more of an exploration into kind of the psycho spiritual attributes and the energetic relationships in the body to the planets and stuff like that.
Mm.
It'd be pretty special.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
really. That sounds really, like taking it to the next level,
Yes.
right?
Because
Yeah.
everything is we're connected to everything, and
Yes.
it's like much like we say the solar system, it's interesting. So if we look at our solar system, the sun is its consciousness, and or the universe, this solar system, the sun is its consciousness and the planets are its organs, you know? So it's the same thing. We believe that the planets can affect our emotions. So of course the organs can affect our emotions too. But as the
Absolutely.
micro to the macro and everything being a reflective womb in creation, then we have connections to it all. And on levels that I don't truly think we ever really transverse. But we will be doing that in a round two.
Awesome. Awesome. So I don't know if you've got a link that you can share with people, just to say it.
Yeah.
There's no way for me to put it in a chat. Maybe
Yeah.
Emily could, our producer, but
Yeah.
it, if you want to, you can just link it up. Or if anybody is actually curious about that, they can reach out to me at
Yes.
mycrystalcoach.com. No,
Yes.
mycrystalcoach at Gmail,
Yes.
mycrystalcoach at Gmail. And I can send them the link. And there's actually, you're offering a discount to anybody that listens
Yes,
to
we
this
are.
podcast.
Yes, we
Okay,
are indeed.
cool. Cool.
Yeah.
So all of that can be, I can send you all that information if you, the listener, can just drop me an email at mycrystalcoach@gmail, and I'll be happy to forward that on to you. Um, Great.
Thank you.
Let's, I had another question for you, but I think it's time to take another quick break,
Okay.
and um, we'll be right back. Hi, and welcome back to the Crystal Coach Show. I'm your host, Anahata, and we've been talking with Dr. Michelle Patrick, who is a pioneer in the revolution of self-mastery, especially when it comes to the body's inner workings and the knowledge that you can gain from the body, and the responsibility that each of us hold for viewing our bodies as precious miracles as they are, and not just taking them for granted. Michelle, I wanted to talk to you. You have had recently a miraculous healing yourself from, following your own advice. Yeah. When you had an injury in your back. Can you tell us about that?
Last year in August, actually it was a year ago, I got a severe back injury. That I didn't know I had, basically.
Mm,
When I first got the injury, I'm a bit of an athlete, I'm a bit of a gymmer. I do a lot of training, and I thought essentially that I had a fascia tear or something, like an
mm.
IT band injury. And over the weeks, I was in Lisbon at the time, and I went to see all my usual body workers, and they all thought it was an IT band problem, or one of the tendons underneath the IT band. So it wasn't treated as a spinal injury. And it wasn't until the pain started moving that I started suspecting that it was a lumbar spinal injury. I
Mm.
thought I probably had, slipped some discs or something. That's what I was thinking. So I went home to the UK, and essentially the next day I woke up paralyzed. And it was very scary. I woke up and I couldn't feel my legs. Luckily, my brother was around the corner because he was coming to visit me. He is also a doctor. He's a respiratory physiologist and a sleep scientist. And he showed up, and I was like, oh, I'm paralyzed. So we called an ambulance. Long story short, I was blue lighted all around the country to neuros up and down the country, who told me that what it looked like I had was a car crash injury, and I had just been to sleep. So what happened was I had slipped some discs while I was training. I carried on training, obviously, and basically I had a full lumbar prolapse. So all of the discs in my lumbar region just slipped and trapped, but they actually impinged my spinal cord. So I was
Which
told I
is why
needed
you were paralyzed. Yeah.
paralyzed, and I was told that I needed to have radical surgery. But the outcomes of that surgery didn't sound like something I wanted to experience. I didn't feel a sense of overwhelming trust in the surgeon.
Mm.
So I declined, and they thought I was insane. And they said they'd never seen a spontaneous release of a spinal cord impingement. I asked to essentially be put on muscle relaxants because, when the body's tense, the body holds injury in place. It's a protection method.
Mm.
So the body's tense and it's holding the injury in place. So I thought if they just put me on high dose muscle relaxants, I'm in hospital anyway, then maybe it will at least, not heal the injury, but release the tension around the injury and allow the
Yeah.
spinal cord to be released. So I just was drinking obscene amounts of hydrogen water and stuff when I was in the hospital. I'm talking like obscene amounts. I was catheterized anyway because I couldn't move. So I thought this is a perfect way to hydrate. Hydration is also a profound tool for healing.
Mm.
And the orthopedic surgeons that I was talking with said they can tell somebody's hydration levels by the bone, right? If they receive a protrusion, a protruding bone injury, they can see if the person's hydrated or not. The more malleable, more hydration, the less brittle things are in the body. So I thought, what, I'm just going to hydrate because I know that the body is a portal of water, around every joint within the lubrication of the spine. There is fluid. And
Mm.
the more fluid there is, the more the body has capacity for movement, and movement is exactly what I needed. So I just laid there hydrating and asked to basically be sedated on muscle relaxants. After a couple of days, I started feeling my feet again, um, which was profound in itself. So the feeling came back, the spinal cord, released itself, and then I began working on actually healing the prolapse, basically. But it was 100% hydration that allowed the movement in the body, for sure.
That's well, that's a really that's just like a miracle in itself. But that really kind of leads me to my next question for you, which is, that's kind of really puts you on this path of uh, how can I say this? It just you're almost a zealot for the miracle of hydrogen, but the molecule of hydrogen, right? So this is kind of like translated into this whole different new opportunity for you as the head of education at this company LUMIVITAE,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And that and so can you talk a little bit about how hydrogen is a miracle molecule and why people should be paying attention?
Yeah, I mean, hydrogen is a building block of creation, right? It's the most abundant element in the universe. It's also the smallest element in the universe. And it goes right back to the beginnings of creation, right? It forms the building blocks of the stars, of the planets, ultimately life itself. And when hydrogen was fusing within the hearts of the stars, it also was giving birth to heavier elements that really constitute the world as we know it. And hydrogen atoms present in our bodies today, they're ancient. They have traveled across the cosmos, quite literally becoming part of things like the water that we drink.
Mm.
And it's such a profound molecule, and again, it's like we don't have enough time to go into the profound nature of this particular molecule, but the scientific research into its capacity as a therapeutic tool of healing is really quite masterful, really, really. And
And
because it's the smallest molecule in the world, you can imagine the capacity it has within the physiology as far as crossing barriers in the body, which we can't do, therapeutically a lot in Western medicine, like getting things to cross the blood-brain barrier, things like
Mhm.
that. Because this molecule is so tiny and it has a selective antioxidant nature, it donates its electrons to the body in the places it needs to, essentially not adding anything to the body or utilizing the body's energy. It's kind of like a battery charge for the body, so it brings the body into its own homeostasis, and it's just really quite profound. And I was already asked to work within LUMIVITAE, so I was working with Nuno Nina, absolute grandfather of of hydrogen education, and at the time this injury happened. So I was already kind of feet in the water, if you will.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Isn't it interesting the synchronicities of how life kind of brings you where you need to be?
Of
And,
course,
you know,
that's nothing
it's
is coincidence ever in life. Nothing
no, right? No, no, there's no coincidences at all.
is.
Um, so yeah, no, the research that you've been a part of since then, since you've joined as the head of education, I mean, there's just so much out there that that you can really like. There's a way to measure how your blood gets more oxygen after drinking the
Yeah,
water
yeah,
that's been charged with hydrogen.
yeah. Well, you can see it's, the blood, well, the human being isn't a continuous moving pallet, and the blood is alive. It's alive with blood cells. So if you take the blood and put it under a microscope prior to drinking hydrogen, and then take it prior after drinking hydrogen, you get two different views of what the body looks like. You can see hydrated cells via dehydrated cells, essentially, or the blood.
Mm.
It's really quite profound.
So it actually delivers more hydration to the blood rather than
Well,
oxygen.
what it does is, yes, it's not oxygen, because essentially when we create molecular hydrogen, we're splitting the water molecules, right? We're separating, we're infusing hydrogen gas into water and
Mhm.
separating the oxygen. So um, essentially what it does is, because it crosses barriers, like we were saying about the blood-brain barrier and stuff like that.
Right.
If you think about the mitochondria, and the nucleus and stuff like that, the hydrogen is able to cross this kind of lipid bilayer of the cell and access the mitochondria, obviously generating more energy in the body and creating a more absorbable environment, if you will, for other things to cross that barrier.
Mhm,
Because we still
mhm.
have a problem crossing things into the cell. We take a lot of supplements. People are obsessed with supplements, but a lot of the time they don't even make it into the powerhouse of the cell because of the state of this kind of lipid bilayer. And hydrogen is really profound in opening up the body's capacity to receive.
So it actually helps you absorb more of the supplements that you're taking.
Yeah, of course, absolutely, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why it's really fascinating, this whole study, this whole industry now that's grown up around that is just really
It's
amazing.
profound. It's very well researched. The clinical studies, scientific studies, it's thousands and thousands. It's really at the forefront of the wellness revolution.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. Um, I was we were comparing our devices,
No, we were.
but it really, for me, having used this now for, I don't know, it's one of the first ones to get one.
We were.
It's it's really changed. It's changed my skin. I mean, my hair's growing back. My hair's growing, well, darker. Part of that's a supplement.
Yeah,
Um, but I'm feeling more energy,
yeah,
and it's just been a very positive effect for me. So I'm just thankful for people like you that are getting the word out and letting other people know that there are tools that are out here in the marketplace that can really assist the body's ability to function at highest capacity.
yeah.
And
The high,
that's a part of the self mastery, right?
absolutely, totally. Yes, radical self-responsibility equals
Right.
actualization.
Right. So the one thing that I've always appreciated about you as a teacher is that you're saying, I am not going to prescribe what you need to do. That is on you. You have to figure out what's going on with you and how to address that particular
Mhm.
cause or symptom that's showing up for you, because not everybody's different, right?
Well, absolutely. And the way we experience our environments is going to be different. So if we can teach the person how to experience their environment, then they become the master of their environment, and
Mhm.
everyone's different. So why, just give the people the water when you can build them a well?
Exactly. Exactly. Um, Michelle, I am so grateful for you being here today and to sharing your vast knowledge about all the things. And I can we again go through how people can find you and reach you and get more information about you?
Yes, of course. You can find me at www.themichellepatrick.com, and you can find me on Instagram at the Earth Oracle.
The Earth Oracle. Yes, Oracle. So, and also people, if you would like to have some information about Michelle's Inner Realm classes that are just amazing, give me an email, drop me an email at mycrystalcoach@gmail.com. Thank you again, Michelle, for being here. And that's going to wrap up another episode of the Crystal Coach Show. Thanks for being here. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you, Michelle. Love you.
Thank you.
You have been listening to The Crystal Coach Show, helping you live every day with clarity, guidance, and practical wisdom. With me, your host, Anahata. Tune in every first and third Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time on TransformationTalkRadio.com, where we channel divine wisdom through stories of service, spirituality, and stones for self-care. Feel connected and reside in the vibration of love on The Crystal Coach Show. For more information and to become the best version of yourself, visit thecrystalcoach.com. That's thecrystalcoach.com. See you next time.